Hello, everyone. Welcome to Spirit Switchboard. I am your host, Carrie Lynn Shellhorn, and you are listening to us live on the United Public Radio Network 105 and the UFO Paranormal Radio Network 105.3 in the Gulf Coast and 107.7 FM out of beautiful New Orleans. Thank you so much for joining us. I hope everybody had a great Valentine's Day. Did some self-love, self-care. I'd love to hear about it if you would like to share. Last week we had Sue Nadeau, a numerologist, Sue Nadeau from our local area, and Joni Templeton Skinner, an astrologist, on talking about love matches and compatibility. So if you didn't, there's a lot of very funny moments in last week's segment, and mostly at my expense. So if you haven't watched it or listened to it, please go back into the archives and take a listen or take a peek at it. And I think it's a good segue into tonight and what we're going to be talking about. I think it all plays a part and parcel in how we are in constant co-creation and understanding who we are. So I think that's part of the things that we may be talking about tonight. Hi, Julie. Hi, Mish. Thank you for being here. Hi, Kathy. Mish, I just love, it's morning for you, right? Like it's Saturday morning for you. I'm sorry that I ask you this probably every time too. Hi, Sandra. So, and I want to do a big shout out to all of the people that participated with the Who's Your Otherworldly Bob course that I put on. It was the first time that I did that Who's Your Bob, which is connecting with your spirit guides. But I wanted to focus on fae and elves and dragons and unicorns, extraterrestrials. I just wanted it to be pushing some boundaries for some people, and it was so great. And I still have to send out the link for the video for you guys. I'm going to record the last meditation for you, and I will send that as an MP4 for everybody that participated in that. If you want to stay in the loop, you can head to my website, which is carrieLynnShellhorn.com, and sign up for the newsletter. And it will give you all the heads up. It'll give you, I only send it out once a month because I am too busy, too ADHD to email more than once a month. So the newsletter goes out at the beginning of the month, and it will give you the heads up to who the guests are going to be on Spirit Switchboard, with links to all of their offerings and where you can find them. So you can look them up and read their books before they come on. So you can participate in the chat in a different way. Intuitive tips and where the events are going to be. So, yeah. So, hi, Wojo. Mish in Australia. Thank you so much for participating in the chat. Hi, Michelle Plummer, Sherry Stubbs. Hi, Michelle. Oh, Heather Michelle. It's so good to see you. It's been so long. Bowmanville starting up next week, so hopefully I see you soon. Oh, I'm glad, Sandra, that you liked the course. It was really fun for me to put together. So let's just switch some things up. Thank you so much, everybody, for being here. I'm just going to read. So excited. All the things I love talking about, we will be sharing tonight. It's going to fly by. Hi, Dan Beeman. I hope your cat is feeling good and okay. Hi, Loretta. I'm glad that you're looking forward to tonight's podcast. Tonight's guest is stellar. Everybody's going to love her if you don't know her already. Tonight's guest is Jill M. Jackson. She's an internationally recognized psychic medium, spirit and a spiritual teacher. She has won multiple awards, including Psychic of the Year by Best American Psychics, and is known for her transformational teachings and incredibly accurate readings. She is the author of Mississippi Medium, My Journey from Southern Baptist to Talking with the Dead. Jill's latest book, Manifest Your Magic in the 5D, is just the book that you guys are needing for your spiritual tool belt. And she's going to be joining us tonight to share some tips and tools and talk about manifesting. Welcome to the show, Jill.
Hi, Carrie Lynn. Thank you for having me.
It's my pleasure. I want to, before we dig in deep, I want to share this story. When I saw the title of your other book, the first book, The Mississippi Medium, Going from Southern Baptist, I could not wait to tell my family about it, because for the longest time, my mom's best friend was the secretary of the Baptist church, and she used to tell my mom all the time that she was praying for me, which we could all use the extra prayers.
Exactly. Oh, that's hilarious.
Right? But she was very frightened about me.
Yes, and it's the most beautiful gift, you know?
Yeah.
I understand completely.
Yeah, it's very deep-rooted fear.
Yes. And control.
Yes. Can you, for the listeners, because we have a large audio listenership as well too. Could you share a little bit about your background for those people who are just meeting you today?
Absolutely. I was born in Mississippi in the deep South, and it is definitely the Bible Belt. I was raised a Southern Baptist, but I was able to see the spirit world since I was a very small child. And before the age of 12, I could only see the spirit world. I could not hear them. So it was kind of confusing for me because I didn't understand what they were doing in my house. And when I was 12, that's when my grandmother came to me after she passed away. And that was the first instance of the clairaudience where I was able to hear the spirit world as well. And so, I navigated the journey of being a Southern Baptist while also talking to the other side.
Was it a comforting experience when you were 12?
Absolutely. When she woke me up, she was floating above my bed, and she was in full form like I see you right now. Sometimes when we see spirits, they're the shadows and the glimpse, but my grandmother was full form, and she was beautiful, and she telepathically told me that she was on the other side, not to worry about her anymore, and that she was no longer sick, and she just needed to come and let me know. And it was beautiful.
Another similar, my very first experience leaving Canada was to go to Tupelo, Mississippi.
Really?
Very first experience. And my friends down there talk about it still. And it's been, I don't know, like 15 years or more since the first time but it was the very first time that I had left Canada as an adult. I will be 54 this summer. And I went to Tupelo, Mississippi, and they all laughed at me. Like that Tupelo was the first place that I ever went to. And it felt like home. Everybody down there was so beautiful and loving. And she said, watch, we're going to do something. We're going to go through the Starbucks. And so we went through the drive-through Starbucks, and my friend Robin at the time, she introduced me to the woman that was serving us at the drive-through. She said, this is my friend Carrie Lynn. And now she's down here to talk to our dead folks. And that woman jumped backwards away from me. Like there's really a fear. And she said, I just wanted you to be aware that you need to not wear it like a Post-it note on your forehead when you're walking around down here.
Oh, how funny, Carrie Lynn.
But I loved it.
Mississippi.
I loved everything about being in Mississippi. It felt like I was at home with the most beautiful people who were warm and loving. Baptist, not Baptist, beautiful people.
Absolutely. The South has amazing people. Definitely.
what another thing that I had learned from them was that they get called queen. There's a bunch of them that get called Queenie. Like the people that I met got called Queenie when they became grandmas. And I said I was going to bring that north, and I did. My granddaughter was born almost 5 years ago, and she calls me Queenie.
Oh, I love that, Carrie Lynn. That's one I haven't heard, so I'm happy to know that one. That's awesome.
Yeah, in Tupelo, it's the Queenie. When you had that experience at 12, was there a length of time in between, like in your teenage years and early adulthood, where that light maybe dulled a bit so that you could fit in and not stand out? Or was it a strong experience? Did that muscle grow quick, or did it kind of simmer?
It was up and down. My mother was also a medium. She never did it publicly. So when my grandmother showed up, I went into my mother's room, and she said, yeah, she was in here talking to me as well. And for 3 nights, she visited us. And so for a while, it was really, really strong. But during high school, I only told one of my friends that I was able to communicate with the other side, because yes, I was trying to fit in. And then there was an aspect of me that kind of thought other people could see and hear what I was able to see and hear. But I think the most part was I was able to just trying to fit in. So yes, I did try to go into the normal world, and ended up becoming a business manager in Hollywood for the entertainment industry. And that was quite interesting in itself, but it was always there. I mean, I have experiences my entire life, constantly.
And our muggle jobs, our jobs that are not as magical, still bring lessons to us and contribute to who we are and our growth and our healing. Like those roots are still important to the journey.
Absolutely. And, when I was using my gifts, even for my clients, even though I didn't kind of advertise that, just intuitively, I just would know things, and that came, to help them as well. So you're absolutely right. Everything we do. And when my students now, when they say, oh, I feel like I've wasted years getting on this path, I said, no, that was creating the foundation for who you are.
And that almost feels sad, right? Like it adds, when they feel like they've wasted, that's that heavier 3D emotion that we're breaking out of, right?
Yes, exactly. Of feeling regret, of tuning into the past and with regret, or, looking into the future with anxiety. And I think that that's something that we can all practice more of, is just being in the moment and having appreciation for where we are in this moment of time, because every experience we have contributes to our growth and our evolution.
Mm-hmm. And the coulda, shoulda, wouldas can get that Chihuahua brain going pretty loud.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, I call myself a recovering control freak,
Well, nice to meet you. I'm a recovering people pleaser.
Okay. I was that too.
But parts of it, right? Like it's just when we step out of that witchy woo closet, when we step out of that and really step into our light, did your grandma continue to be a part of that journey for you? Was she like a gatekeeper? Did she make it comfortable for you at the beginning until there was more ease? Was she always around?
She wasn't. And that was kind of interesting as well. She would come in and out, but she was not one of my primary teachers from the other side. When I have a really strong spirit team, my spirit guides that I've been able to communicate with since my early 20s. And, they've taught me so much. And then I studied from there when I came out of I call it coming out of the psychic closet for good, I
Yeah.
found some amazing mentors, because I feel like it's really important to hone our gifts, for sure.
Do you feel once we make that decision to step into that, to start that journey, uh, the universe picks up that cue so the right people kind of land in our spot, those first teachers?
100%. And, someone was saying that they didn't need teachers because Spirit taught them everything. And one of my colleagues said, well, how about this? Your spirits that are helping you from the other side are actually bringing the teachers and the mentors into your path to help you from this realm, so they are still teaching you, but they're bringing the right teachers into your space.
And I find, if we go one step further, that it's okay for you to outgrow certain teachers too. It doesn't, for whatever role, big or small, right? Like we can outgrow and keep moving up that run.
As we should, yes.
Yeah.
I encourage my students, learn as much as you can. I mean, for myself, I probably had 12 different mentors and teachers throughout the years that I was developing and honing my skills.
Amazing. And now you're that teacher for many.
Yes, and it's such a joy to my soul to help people find their truth.
Do you find, because I don't know, because we're just meeting for the first time today too, how did that start for you, going from your regular job moving into, because it's from experience, I know, because it's been 18 years for me full time, so jumping from what I was doing to this full time was a very big leap of faith.
Yes, and I'm at about 18, 20 years as well. I had the comfortable, very comfortable, high earning, business in Hollywood, and the big house and the luxury car, and on and on and on. And I ended up in the hospital and almost passed away because, I wasn't living my path, my soul's blueprint, but I didn't quite understand it at the time. And I can be a little bit stubborn and hard-headed with the rest of them. And so it took 2 times. So the second time I ended up in the hospital and quite sick. At that point, I finally said, okay, to, my main guide, Sasha, I'm listening. What's going on? And she said, do you feel that you're on your soul's path? And just encouraged me to take that leap of faith. And, remember, it's kind of a joke. I called my dad and I said, remember that college degree that you paid for and helped me get through school? And he said, yes. And I said, well, I'm going to walk away from all of that, and I am now going to be a professional psychic. And there was just silence for a few minutes on the phone, and I'm sure he was trying to process. And then he said, I support you in whatever you want to do, and I want you to find your happiness. And so I'm blessed in that way, that I had both of my parents' encouragement, which I know a lot of people didn't with their gifts. So I am blessed in that way.
That's beautiful that he was so open to that.
Yes, my dad is highly psychic as well. He never understood it. When I wrote the book, Mississippi Medium, and I talk about my dad in there and my mom, and, I said, Dad, you're psychic, because one of my mentors, Mavis Patilla, who's in Spirit now, when I was studying with her, she said, you get your psychic from your dad and your mediumship from your mom. And I had never really quite understood it that way. And when I said that to my dad, he said, that makes sense, because he said, I always, even in business meetings, I would know things before other people. And it was frustrating because they weren't quite caught up there. So He understands now that he is psychic.
Do you see that with students? I've seen that with students. They come in saying they're, that they're dumb as a piece of, like dumb as a stump, or that they don't have it. And then it's thrilling watching those connections and ahas happen.
I love that. And when I was teaching at Lilydale last season, we were teaching a class, and this husband, when everybody was going around and introducing themselves, the husband said, "Well, I don't have any gifts. I'm just here to support my wife." And everybody else in the room kind of laughed, not at him, but with him, because I just said, "Smile, welcome." So I said, "You're going to be surprised." And by the end, when they were doing practice readings, he had his partner crying from the accuracy. And I went over and I said, "How is this non-psychic doing today?" And he's like, "I'm just shocked."
Did you have a hurdle at the beginning, or were you very bravely away we go?
My hurdle was more with the mediumship, which was really strange because the mediumship came for me first before my psychic gifts. And a lot of people, it's the opposite of that. But the mediumship was where my fear would come in, and I would even call my mom crying and say, after having the most amazing sessions at first, saying, "Who do I think I am? I'm not a medium. Why do I think I can do this?" And my mom would talk me through it. "Were your clients happy? Did you validate?" Yes, 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 yes. So it was several years of working with that fear-based ego mind that we all have. So it's part of it. It's part of the human journey.
I appreciate you being transparent and vulnerable in sharing that story, because I feel it's important for people who are just waking up to understand there is this uncomfortable stage you go through in questioning yourself, and you just keep taking those steps forward. I was the same. I took somebody gifted me an intuitive development class. They came up to Canada from Maine and gifted me this opportunity. We were doing psychometry, and I was holding the lady who I was reading for her rings, and I was giving everything that I was supposed to be getting. And then I started crying, and the woman who was teaching came over, and she said, "Why are you crying?" And I said, "I'm just a mom." She's like, "No, buck up and get it done." She walked away. So, and I think if I'm overtired, that Chihuahua brain can get really loud, where that imposter syndrome can kick in. I can move through it faster now, but it's an indicator when I've not been maintaining my self-care.
That's a beautiful way to put it, Carrie Lynn. And you're right. When the ego tries to come in, now I'm able to calm it, and it's not overwhelming. I'm just like, "Okay, there you are again, and we're not going to play today. You're going to go somewhere else." But I tell my students it's part of the journey, because it is so outside the norm, so to speak, of what we've all been conditioned to believe is reality. So we're stepping into this new paradigm, this new reality that is just unsettling at times.
Mm-hmm. So when we talk about being in alignment with your soul's blueprint, what does that mean?
Before we incarnate, we meet with our spirit guides, and we come up with a plan. It's like I liken it to an architect draws up plans and a blueprint of someone's going to build a house or a building. And we have the same with our spirit guides, and they can help us look at our past lives and look at our karma and what we may choose to balance in this current lifetime, the people, the relationships, on and on and on. And all of that is put into what I like to call our soul's blueprint. It's our life purpose. And when we incarnate and come in, if we are not living and walking the journey that aligns with that blueprint, that's where many of the obstacles come in along the way to try to steer us back and course correct, if you will, back onto our soul's journey.
Are there people who have agreed to not awaken at the same time as us to help with certain lessons?
I feel that we all have free will. And I feel like that, we come in with a destiny and we come in with our plan, but there's also fate, that plays into it as well. I was part of a group from Robert Bigelow, the Bix experiment. For 10 months. We would channel 2 and 3 times a week, asking the same questions. And then we weren't privy to what the other mediums were getting. And my husband, who's also a psychic medium, and I would sit together. And the question was, is there fate and is there destiny, or is there both? And by the end of the study, the majority of the mediums were in agreement that there's both. There's fate and destiny. Would you kind of agree with that?
Yeah,
too,
I agree with that 100%. And I'm having a squirrel moment, and I've done really well with my ADHD tonight. So we're going to have the first ADHD moment. When you said that your partner is a psychic medium as well too, because I've been single forever. I raised my children pretty much on my own for a long time on my own. And someone said, you need a partner that's intuitive as well too. And I'm like, oh no. I don't know if I could handle that. I need to know how that works. But I guess if you are both in alignment and understand the accountability of your energy and not taking or projecting, perceiving or projecting, and having open communication, that would work. I'm in awe of you right now.
Well, the key is to do our own shadow work before that moment, because my husband also happens to be my twin flame, which, in the beginning, it was, everybody thinks it's all rainbows and unicorns. And it's like twin flames hold up that mirror for each other. And so, it took us a while to navigate that. We're going on our 10 years together. And, he's been my greatest teacher, and I've been his. And he was born with his gifts as well, but he had been told by his parents and everyone else, you're not really seeing what you're seeing. And so when we joined together, I knew he was a medium right away, and I told him what I did, and he started opening up. That first week we were dating, about his experiences seeing UFOs and seeing the spirit world and knowing things as a child.
How amazing. So it was that fate or destiny? Where on the blueprint does that fit?
It was definitely destiny. It was destined. I mean, I have a whole chapter devoted to him in my Mississippi Medium book, because we weren't even supposed to meet, and we had been in the same small town of Asheville, North Carolina together for several years before we even met, and we knew the same people, but we were both still working on our individual shadow and journey and awakening before we joined together.
I got those tooth bumps I don't even call them goosebumps. I haven't called them goosebumps in such a long time. They're truth bumps.
I love truth bumps. Yeah.
Yeah. That's a beautiful story. That's incredible. Even, yes, Denise, I agree. Denise is just saying, wow, how awesome. And
can I tell a funny story, Carrie Lynn?
Yeah,
when we first met. So, I had been single for a very long time myself. And so, when I first moved in with my husband, I thought, okay, now I have this, male protector. If anybody breaks in or anything, you'd think, okay. So we had just started living together. And again, he can see the spirit world too. And we had moved into this old loft apartment in downtown Asheville. And I woke up one night and there is a full form spirit standing at the end of the bed, very menacing and angry. And it was so real that I thought someone had broken into our apartment. And so I started screaming, and I've tried to get behind my husband. And so he woke up and he could see the spirit as well because he's a medium. And instead of protecting me, he's like pushing me forward and he's trying to hide behind me. So we had a little talk that night. You have to protect me from the spirit people and the real people as well.
That is funny. That is funny. And it is a lifelong journey. This isn't just like you take a weekend course and this is it. You know, it's a lifelong journey.
Absolutely. You know, I was at the Conscious Life Expo a week or so ago and doing a speech and a lecture, and it was only 45 minutes long, and it was about manifesting and creating aligning with your soul's blueprint. And you know, there was a man in there that was just kind of a little bit angry at the universe because he was saying, you know, when we're not able to manifest what we're wanting, that's the universe giving us a prison sentence. And why do you feel that we deserve that? And I said, it's not a prison sentence. It is an opportunity for soul growth. And so by the end of it, he's just like, I need all the tools like right now. And I said, you know, we're talking about years and years and years of soul development. I mean, baby steps, but you know, you can't go to one hour lecture and expect to have your entire shadow worked out and realized.
Yeah. And you're usually a snotty, ugly mess from like crying and weeping, and it really takes you to the core.
Yes, I tell my students, awakening is not for the faint of heart. I mean, I remember my awakening process as well.
Yeah.
Many years.
Yeah. And yeah, I was probably going to, we're just going to do it. Yeah. Sometimes I feel like my mouth gets ahead and I'm going to step into a big pile of poo. So I do the pause, but I'm still going to step. You can tell like that phrase, love and light, it makes me cringe sometimes because you can tell when there's been a process behind it when it's said, or someone who knows the buzzword.
Exactly. And, you know, what I'm finding is some spiritual bypassing that goes on too, because, you know, love and light can be an excuse sometimes to not show up for our authentic truth, and also, you know, speaking up about what we believe in as well.
Yeah. Understanding our core values and
yes.
You know, and that's really when we're talking about living authentically.
Exactly.
What that encompasses, right?
Yes.
When we talk about this time period that we're in, which is fast-paced and moving, and lots of things are being turned inside out right now, shifting into 5D, can you explain to people who are maybe just coming into their awareness what that 3D and 5D, what that means and looks like? Hello, Tanya Martins. Thank you for being here.
Yes, absolutely. So the 3D reality is a reality of division and separation. You know, all the chaos and the war and the anger and turning people against each other. I mean, it's a very dense dimension. And when we can integrate the fifth dimension into our reality, that is tapping into the quantum and also the collective consciousness. And in the fifth dimension, that's where ego doesn't exist. So all of those fears and anger and all of that energy can't reside there. It's the dimension of unity and oneness. And when we integrate that in, we do understand that through quantum entanglement, we are all connected, and this human journey is a beautiful expansion. But at the same time, there's free will, and each human on the planet can make the choice of whether they want to continue to vibrate in the third dimension or the fifth dimension. And I feel that that's what we're seeing kind of playing out in our reality right now.
Yeah, because our thoughts, words, deeds, and actions all have a frequency.
Yes. Yes. And a lot of people, and we forget sometimes that our thoughts have a frequency as well. But science has been able to prove that the thoughts do have a frequency, and those thoughts turn into a frequency as well. And so it's so important to really pay attention, not only to our words, but our thoughts as well.
And your thoughts go out before your words.
Exactly.
Like, the thoughts are there, and then the words. I've taught my children this, and I've taught my students this. Like, we all have moments. We all have moments where we're knocked off kilter, right? And so people in the chat have heard me say this: click cancel and delete, and thank you very much.
Yes.
We're going to shift it as quick as possible, right? Like,
yes. Yeah, I say the same thing. Cancel clear is what I say.
Yeah. And again, because we're still human, right? We are still human. So Fiona Clark, oh, that's fabulous, Fiona. I'm so glad that you're here. Fiona is just saying, hi, ladies. Love this episode.
Hi,
Heidi is joining us from Boulder, Colorado. She's saying, I do say love and light on the positivity aspect. But Heidi, you have, I shouldn't say but, I also know, Heidi, that you have done a lot of work, a lot of personal work and shadow work. She's saying, I had seen some dark times, and I'm grateful for the lessons and the blessings. It's all about balance. If I can brighten someone's day, I'll do it. And she said it's 4:44 and 44 degrees here in Boulder. Woo!
Oh, love the fours.
That's exciting.
Yes.
Tanya Martins, we create our reality. Kimberly Fortune is just saying hello. Thank you for being here. Tanya Martins, I agree that we create our reality, but for some people, that means accountability for when it feels uncomfortable or it's not going their way as well too. And that's a hard, bitter pill for some people to have accountability with.
Yes, and I love what I believe it was Heidi that said it's all about balance. And, I call it sacred balance because, yes, we don't want to repress our human emotions because that creates more traumas in our subconscious mind when we don't honor our human emotions of anger and frustration when we see certain things happening in our reality. But it's just finding that balance.
Right. Which is what Contessa is just sharing. It seems so hard to keep everything in a good frequency. When life throws you curveballs, it's so easy to lose the high frequency. You, in manifesting your magic in the 5D, you weave personal stories through fictional stories in the book to drive home some of those lessons, right? In manifesting. Could you talk about, maybe if you're open to that, about the curveballs that got you moving into manifesting?
Yes, absolutely. And the fictional story, the character, her name is Mandy, and I loved writing a fictional story to kind of help drive the concepts home, to help people understand them. And it was actually my husband's idea to have her first part of the story as the prologue, and then the ending of the story as the epilogue of the book, and just kind of bringing it all together. But the way that I got on this journey myself was, I've always been a master manifester. Anything that I wanted in my life, my family and friends knew I could speak it into being, except one area. And that's when I was trying to become a biological mother. And after 5 miscarriages, and every single time, following the law of attraction, following the teachings of the secret, just verbatim, and getting stronger and stronger each time, and then each time having a miscarriage. So I went on a quest and a journey. Of course, I was grieving, deeply grieving. But in the midst of the grieving for the loss of not being able to be a biological mother in this lifetime, I was also grieving at what I call perceived manifestation failure. Like, why wasn't I good enough to manifest? And why did the law of attraction not work? Why was it not successful for me? So it was about a 3-year journey that I went on to find out the reasons why. And I would journal about it along the way. And then I started realizing that so many of my clients that were coming to me had similar things, where there was just one thing primarily in their life they had not been able to manifest, and they didn't understand why. So that's when I decided to publish the book, to kind of explain to people what I uncovered and discovered about my own personal journey. The truth was, my soul's blueprint chose not to be a biological mother for this particular lifetime. I chose to be a stepmother. I chose to be an animal mother, fur baby mother, and also a spiritual mother to many. Yes. But I had forgotten that part of my blueprint.
How did you come back to understanding that with your blueprint? Like, what do you look at to find your blueprint or understand what your blueprint is?
A lot of meditation, a lot of consulting. I would go to other psychics and other mediums who are able to look into my Akashic records. And, at the time, I was learning how to tap into the Akashic records, but I didn't quite understand how to for myself. And then sometimes we can't see the forest for the trees for our own reality. So I was consulting. And then in 2009, I became certified in past life regression. And that opened up so much for me as well, bringing the past lives and then understanding, and then just having a lot of conversations with my own spirit guides. So there was a lot of pieces to that puzzle to come to the full understanding of why I had chosen that.
My beautiful friend Lena is saying, "I love that. Thank you for sharing."
Absolutely. It was a difficult part of my life to write about. It took me years to finally have the courage to go ahead and share my journey. But what I have found is that it helps us when we can be vulnerable and share our own heartbreaks and losses. And, my guides prefer not calling them lessons, but soul growth opportunities, because we learn the most through our challenges, right?
Yeah, that's beautiful. I have found when I look back at before that monumental experience that propelled me forward in awareness, I don't recognize her at all. I hold much gratitude to old me. I hold much gratitude for her and the weight that she carried and the experiences that happened. But I don't recognize her. Do you hear that, or do you feel that way personally?
Absolutely. I even refer to that part of my life as my past life, the past life in this current lifetime.
Yeah.
Because yes.
You're so brave about the past life stuff. It's been suggested a number of times, and I dig my heels in and go, nope, no thanks. I think that I've been all of it. All genders, tall, short, slim, not, horrible person, good person. I just assume I've done it all.
Yes. But there were so many, I had a few phobias that did not make sense in this lifetime that the past life regression helped me understand. And I've been a male in more lifetimes than I have been a a female.
Maybe I do have some control issues.
Welcome to the club.
That was uncomfortable. It's something maybe I need to work on. But I think, though, very aware, I think if we are, or I feel that's a better word to use. I feel if we are becoming more aware, we will start to see where there's certain patterns that are, trying to steer us in a direction of growth awareness, for sure.
Yes, absolutely. And one area that past life regression helped me with and helped me understand, I had a bizarre fear of the ocean. And I had already said out loud to as many people as would hear, I will never go on a cruise. I will never go on a cruise. I knew, I had a knowing that I had passed away in a sinking of a ship in the ocean. And so in 2017, I got invited to be a speaker on the Intuition cruise. And I thought, oh boy, do I allow that fear, that irrational fear, because I had not had anything happen in this lifetime to bring that fear. And so I was able to, be regressed and understand and come to the lifetime. Yes, sure enough, I had passed away. I was a merchant sailor, a male, and the ship went down. And that's where that irrational fear was. But once I got that behind it, I was able to go and not even have any fear of it.
Can I ask a question about that?
Yes.
Do you feel if we're all connected, collective consciousness, right? Collective consciousness of one. If there are many people with that fear, could we also be picking up on that fear as well too? Like other people's stuff at the same time? I mean, I guess that's where discernment comes in, yours, like our personal stuff or a collective.
Yeah, I feel with these kinds of things that it is more individual just because of my own experience. That's a great question. And I've actually been asked that before. And, I don't have all the answers, but I feel with my own personal, because when I've had the past life regression and gone to that lifetime and really resonated, then it released. And so if I was picking it up from others, I don't feel like that would have been the case.
I had kind of a past life thing happen during a healing session that I had with a very powerful energy healer, and it brought up some stuff. It certainly clarified a lot of things, but it brought up a lot of things. Denise Mitz is asking, what type of past life regression do you do? I didn't know there was more than one.
Yes, there are. I mean, there's QHHT. I did not study with that one. That's Dolores Cannon's modality. My teacher was out of Sedona, Arizona, Mary Elizabeth Rains, and it's called the Laughing Cherub. I'm not sure if she teaches any longer, but I was certified through her school.
Contessa is asking, does knowing about our past lives help us in this lifetime?
I truly believe so. And it's part of I do that in my readings too. If someone wants that, I'm able, to tap into past lives. And sometimes it helps us understand relationships that we're in that, maybe were a different relationship in a past life. And even in my school, I teach my students to read past lives just because it's so fascinating when you are bringing somebody's past life in that pertains to something in this lifetime, how it all, like that light bulb moment, goes off and things start making sense.
And it would help us with our manifesting, right?
Possibly so, because, I look at it as peeling back the onion layers to get to the core of our truth and remembering our aspects of the DNA, which is, part of who we are and the expression of ourselves. So yeah, I feel it can be beneficial. It's just one modality, one tool. There's so many.
Heidi is sharing, I was a captain and for years collected lighthouses and didn't understand why I liked them.
That's beautiful. That makes so much sense.
I'm going to share a secret about the secret. I found the secret irritating. I understood it, but there was a piece of me that felt like part of it was being held back. There was a piece that was being held back, and so yeah, I appreciate what it did, and it brought so many people to understanding personal accountability and manifesting. I just struggled with, I knew certain even positive affirmations would not work for me because my Chihuahua brain would go, you're telling a lie. And if I'm lying, I am not feeling it if it's a lie. So I shifted many things attached to the secret. Now,
Yeah.
I'm glad, Contessa, you too. There was just something that didn't resonate. So I appreciated so much that you have said the same thing. I'm grateful for what it did, but I do feel, what you have done is helpful for people, used it as a foundation and took it further.
Yes. And, there were a couple of things that I really didn't agree with, when they said that every reality we bring in, and I even use the example in the book, could you argue that all the people in Flint, Michigan, when they had, terrible water that they couldn't drink, did they manifest that? Were they thinking thoughts of, want terrible water? And I don't believe that to be so. And then, so that was one thing that I did not resonate with. And then the other, like you said, there's so many other pieces to the puzzle. And then the other aspect is, it's kind of that energy of the I and the me. And, if everybody was driving a red Ferrari, how boring would this world be? And it's like, that's not what our evolution is about. But I also have gratitude that, it sold 20 million copies and at the time, and helped people start unraveling some of the dogma and the understanding.
Yeah. Mish, who is joining us from Australia, is just sharing, years ago, a boss of mine bought us a copied DVD of The Secret. I was always confused about that. We would joke, I want to manifest being the owner of the company.
That's a good one.
And then she's like, the company went bust. It's funny. So funny. But it elevated people's awareness.
Yes, it did. And it opened that door for people to start thinking, and thinking outside of that proverbial box that so many of us had been conditioned to believe that that's all that it was. So I have a lot of gratitude for Rhonda Bynes for that.
I'm just going to do, before we dig into too far, I'm just going to do our station ID really quickly. So if you are joining us now, thank you so much for being here. You are listening to Spirit Switchboard, and I'm your host, Carrie Lynn Shellhorn. You are listening to us live on the United Public Radio Network and the UFO Paranormal Radio Network, 105.3 in the Gulf Coast and 107.7 FM out of beautiful New Orleans. Thank you so much for being here. Today's guest is Jill M. Jackson. Spiritual teacher, author. Oh my gosh, you wear so many different hats. You take people on spiritual retreats and journeys as well too. Yes. You just do it all.
Yeah, I love the sacred travel, and that's more of my husband's kind of life purpose. He's a healer, and so we have a company called Mystic Journeys, and we take people to power spots around the world. We spent the summer solstice this past year in Stonehenge, and and then in Glastonbury, England, and at the top of the
Wow.
tour. And it was amazing.
Does it feel, does, I imagine, in my head, I imagine it feels static, like the energy is, you can feel it on your skin. Does it feel
In
that way?
Stonehenge?
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. And especially, what we've been other times where it wasn't the summer solstice, and it's amazing every time. But this past time with thousands of people from all over the world, and we were in the inner circle, and there was drumming and singing, and you had the druids, and all, people just dressed in so many amazing outfits. And I mean, I just had tears going down my face because of the connection of so many people from around the world inside of that sacred spot.
So when in that moment, would you also be feeling all of the ancestors and energies of guides that are also there? Like, it would just be powerful on so many levels, right?
Yes, it was. And we went to other stone circles as well. We went to the Boscawen, I try not to butcher that name, and the Seven Sisters, and Avebury. And so at each one, I would channel, I would go into trance and channel. And I remember at the Seven Sisters, when I walked into that one and went up and touched one of the stones, and I was hugging the stone, and I heard silently, "Welcome home." And, I knew I had a past life in England, but it was just so, again, just tears. It was just an amazing experience, amazing journey.
Wow. Michelle Wilfong, I'm seeing your comments. Michelle Wilfong was saying that she needed to find her glasses so she could read the comments. And then she said, "Oh, they're on my head." Michelle, I have been known to walk around my house with my dowsing rods to try to find my glasses.
Oh, that's a good one.
I've tried clapping, but they don't clap back. Denise Mitz is, Denise Mitz is just sharing she would love to go to Stonehenge when nobody else is there.
Oh, yeah. Good luck with that one. It's like...
My son had an opportunity to go, and he'll be 20 in May, and he went last summer, and he said it was powerful. He had
I love that.
A very moving. He is that kiddo for me. He came after many miscarriages for me, and he has seen people from the time that he was very little. He was the one that was channeling Kuan Yin. He said this whole mantra for Kuan Yin, and I didn't know what it was. I had to look it up to realize that it was this mantra from Kuan Yin. So,
oh my gosh, Carrie Lynn, we need to talk, because my book that I'm writing right now is called Children of the New Earth, and I'm going back to, and interviewing parents of gifted children. And so I would love to.
I have 4 of them.
You. Okay. Beautiful.
I have 4. When I stepped out of my witchy boo closet, it was, I had a parenting radio show for parenting children that were intuitive, and it was based out of Tyler, Texas. And I did that 18 years ago. And because it was my drive, I love supporting kids and families that have kids that were intuitive. It still is kind of my favorite place to go. So I love that you're writing this book, because it's needed. People are needing a resource. Families are needing a resource. When my kids were small, I had a summer camp so that other kids that were like them could all get together, and we would make energy balls and shoot them at each other.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing. Yeah, we definitely need to talk. We need to talk.
I would love to.
Yes.
So Mish is sharing Australia had a stone hedge, but was bulldozed apparently. That's very sad on so many levels.
Yeah.
Kuan Yin is beautiful, Contessa. I agree. One of the things that I admittedly do not know much about. So I'm grateful that you've written about it, are the universal laws. How do universal laws play into manifesting?
Yeah. So, the secret was just the one law of the law of attraction. And I call them the pillars of the law of attraction. And so the first pillar of the law of attraction is the spiritual law of action. And it basically tells the universe that we are taking the action steps necessary, that we're serious. I kind of liken it to a client who says they're ready to meet their beloved and their soulmate. And I'll tell them in a session, well, I see you meeting them at an outdoor event. And then 6 months later, well, I haven't met them yet. Well, how many outdoor events have you been to? None. And I know I've been sitting in my, it's like we can't sit in our living room in the lotus position, so the spiritual law of action tells the universe we are ready to manifest this.
Right.
And by creating the action steps, that creates the spiritual law of vibration. And it's kind of that frequency we were talking about earlier, where our thoughts and our words create this ripple effect, the frequency. And so those are the kind of the pillars that support the law of attraction. And then there's so many other amazing ones too. There's the spiritual law of gender. And what that teaches us is to be balanced in our masculine side and our feminine side, because so many of us are out of balance in that. And when we can find balance between the masculine and feminine aspects of our individual selves, again, that helps us know ourselves deeper, and it helps us tap into that blueprint and in turn helps us manifest more. There's the spiritual law of free will that we've talked about, that we all have free will to make our choices and decisions, just like two people could have had the soul contract to meet up at a certain point in their life. And one of the people remembers that mission, and maybe the other one, it's kind of like you said earlier, where maybe they're not quite on board yet. And that's where free will comes into play. Even on the other side, we have free will. There's the spiritual law of polarity, which we have that in the third dimension, understanding that light and dark both coexist, and we have both aspects within ourselves, and that's part of that shadow work as well.
Is cause and effect a universal law too?
Yeah, and that's actually the spiritual law of karma, which is the same thing, cause and effect. Yes. Okay. Yes, so that's another one, because that plays into manifesting as well. And then I love the spiritual law of unity or oneness, and that's when we can tap into that collective wisdom or collective consciousness.
Yeah, I talk about that a lot, even with healing and forgiveness. Like sometimes a person is not ready to receive those. If we're working from a higher frequency and they're still kind of in those lower frequencies, it's hard for them to take those higher frequencies because they'll respond like a hurt dog. They don't understand what it is, so they're going to snap, growl, bite at you, right?
Yes.
But if we shoot it to the collective, then it goes gently to them. And if we're being of service, it's about the collective to begin with. Like that's where our focus should lead, is with the collective. Shoulda, coulda, woulda. I don't know. Was that wrong to say it that way? I don't know.
No. I mean, because you're right. And I love teaching my students, like if you're having a conflict with someone and like you said, they're just not hearing you, they're not on the same, they're literally in another universe, we can talk to their higher self and higher self to higher self. And a lot of times there's shifts that happen little, there might be smaller shifts. It may not be what we would hope. There's that but would hope that they would be, but at least it's something, at least it's movement in some way.
And let me tell you, if you are a parent with young little people, babies, and then moving into toddlers, you can talk to their higher self and they will hear you on a crowded beach. When you yell at them to stop in their tracks in your head, they hear you.
And come from experience, how have
Yes,
you?
yes, ma'am. Coming from experience. One kiddo in particular was much better at picking up because they enjoyed that telepathic communication more than the other ones. Yeah, she was pretty
Yes,
awesome, and she still is pretty awesome at it, actually, which is
I
great.
love that. Yes.
Yeah, it's something else. But okay, I want to come back to. Thank you, Heidi. Mental noted. It's just play with it. I started when my kids were in their cribs, so I would talk to them when I didn't feel like getting up a half hour after I had just been up. Mama is in the next room, and you're okay, and I'm okay. How can people understand if they get knocked off kilter to not to move through gracefully to get back on track? You know, like we get knocked off kilter, and so then we feel like we're not manifesting correctly, or we're going backwards instead of forwards. Is that a normal progression, or how can we be kind to ourselves when we're maneuvering through that?
Yeah, absolutely. The first key is to really allow those human emotions, and not to deny ourselves the grief if we're grieving a relationship loss or job loss or anything else, or if we're angry about something, allow those emotions to be processed. But I find that when we have something that does knock us off our kilter, that once we do go through the human emotions and allow that process, the key is not to stay anchored in that energy. And the key from there is to use that as an opportunity to do more of our soul work, to do more of our shadow work, and to truly ask ourselves, is this the universe course correcting us into a more aligned place? Or was this part of karma? Because it could be many different, reasons, but the key is to make sure not to do our best, not to go into a victim mode, because if we can look at it as an opportunity for growth, then we end up evolving from that experience. And again, it sounds easier than it is. My own journey, I remember I couldn't even be at my sister's 1-year-old child's birthday party, but a year later from my own grief. So I'm not saying that it's easy when we have these challenges, but we can learn and work from them.
Yeah. And if you are journaling, being able to look back in your journal and see what you have manifested. Sometimes looking at that, it helps calm, or it moves those Chihuahua thoughts, Chihuahua brain thinking, the ego thinking down into our heart space again, when we can review the things that we have manifested, and that light at the end of the tunnel. And you kind of touched into the question I was going to ask next was, can we change our timeline? Can we change our blueprint?
Yes, and it's a favorite thing of mine to do at retreats and so in my classes, is leading the students on changing our soul's blueprint. And we can even do that with our loved ones. I had a student, and it was so powerful, and he had issues. He had a very abusive stepfather, and so he was able to, I taught them how to go in and kind of look at that blueprint as far as the Akashic records, and was that agreed upon. And what was determined was, yes, his stepfather had agreed to be that catalyst, had agreed to sort of play that role, if you will, as the protagonist or antagonist, I believe it is, in his life. But the stepfather had taken his own free will and multiplied that, by many times more severe than he had originally agreed to. And my student was able to, I teach them how to go to the other side, call them forward, and ask if they, and to bring the Akashic records out and to ask them if they are willing to take accountability for going off script, so to speak. And they may or may not. His stepfather was not ready, even being on the other side. However, it was so healing for my student because what he did was he rewrote it himself. And in that moment, he was able to release that energy from holding on to why had his stepfather done that to him for so long. And he came back from that journey and that exercise from a place of empowerment rather from a place of being a victim. So it was so profound.
Now I have questions. I know you have sparked. So I have always understood about soul contracts. So I learned and teach, like, I now deem null and void vows, contracts, and agreements between myself and. So having to go one step further and then looking at if there's someone else or another soul involved in that before it actually changes the blueprint.
Yes, if it is a relationship that you've had issues with, challenges, because again, you've got the free will from both individuals. Let's say it's a toxic relationship with your mother or your father or step parent or, a past husband or wife's spouse, on and on. We can look at these different relationships, and it's just so powerful to be able to go. And I like what you said too, cancel, alt, delete, I end this soul contract. And, I've done it in a way where they kind of rewrite it, because when they're rewriting it, it doesn't negate all that they did learn from that relationship and that experience. Because again, our challenges mold who we are as individuals.
Right. Thank you for teaching me that, because I've always saw or felt, understood, whether I'm not sure why, but from my own thoughts, that we couldn't completely remove someone from our journey. We could move the energy between.
Yes, and that, and that's the same thing pretty much, just the energy. Yeah. Yes.
Hi, Jeff Kirby. Thank you for being here. He's asking, are we not all the creators? QRST conscience.
We are
I am.
Yes, we are. However, we have relationships with people who also have free will, and we have agreed to these relationships in our blueprint.
Heidi was sharing. Granddaughter is such an old soul too. Yes, try talking to her higher self and talking to her telepathically. Mish is sharing, thanks for a good show, listening to us later. Thank you so much for being here, Mish. I'm glad that you were here. And appreciate all that you contribute to the conversation. I think it comes back to understanding that it is a lifelong journey in manifesting, and when we are manifesting, knowing how quickly we can get back into alignment, and even choices that we have to make, if they are painful choices, if they're in alignment, we still feel expansive.
Exactly. That's beautiful, Carrie Lynn. I like that. Yes, very much so.
I just want to make sure I didn't miss anything. Folks that are in the chat, do you guys have a manifesting story that you would want to share or manifesting questions? Manifesting, I love talking about manifesting. And understanding, tapping into that collective with more people. Do we manifest faster because more people are vibrating at that higher place? Does that help us manifest faster?
Yes, it does. And I actually wanted to talk about that too, Carrie Lynn, because a lot of times if we don't understand the different dimensions, we're trying to manifest in the third dimension, and in that dimension, that's where the fear and the ego comes in, that starts telling us, who are you kidding? You're never going to be able to start that business. You don't have enough money. You don't have enough experience. That's the ego. That's the fear brain. Well, in the fifth dimension, that doesn't exist.
Because I've heard a comment that I hear frequently is people trying to manifest money, but they're scared to try to manifest the money because they don't want it to mean that it's an inheritance and somebody has to die for it.
Well, and see, that's that fear coming in, right? So when we're in the fifth dimension, and that's what I teach in the book. And by the way, I wrote a workbook journal that goes along with the book, because so many people were saying that they went out and bought a journal to do the exercises. So I wrote a book, the workbook journal, and at the end in the chapter, like you read chapter 1 and then do chapter 1 in the workbook journal, and there's journaling pages in there as well. But it helps us answer those questions, to work through our own shadows, and it kind of prompts us to learn more about ourselves, and it teaches us how to get into the fifth dimensional frequency, which is basically an integration. It's, a lot for years, people thought you were rising up into the heavens, and it's just a state of being, a state of consciousness.
Right. Jen Schneider is saying, just buy your lotto tickets. So here's an interesting story about the lottery tickets. If you tap into it, is it in my highest good to purchase a ticket today? Is it in my highest good to purchase from this? You do get those hits, and we will buy the zoo. We are manifesting the zoo, Jen. The big property. So mini goats and chickens, it's going to happen.
Oh, I'm there too.
Gonna happen. Jeff Kirby, you're making a comment that I find super interesting and feel we should discuss. So Jeff is sharing, we got to get rid of the ego. But if you got rid of the ego, you would not be whole.
Correct. And, you hear so many spiritual teachers talking about the death of the ego. And I prefer, getting to know the aspects of our ego, because it's more of a rebirth, right? And understanding, because our ego helps us, it's there for a reason. And like you said, Carolyn, it's an aspect of who we are. So I feel that it's more of a rebirth. We don't want to kill the ego.
No, I see it like a bad puppy. Just needs a little timeout every once in a while.
Exactly.
We're just gonna calm it down. Yeah, that's how I've always felt. Like I appreciate that comment though, Jeff, like shifting the perspective and understanding how it's trying to serve us, because it's doing its job. The ego's doing its job.
Yes.
That's its role for us.
Right. But the key is learning in this, learning to differentiate and discern what is ego and what is the higher self. Mm-hmm. And, that's part of learning and peeling those onion layers back.
Heidi is sharing, I never heard it explained like this, the third with the ego and then 5D. Thank you. Tessa is sharing, I manifested a new job. I wrote my resignation letter to my old boss and hid the letter. 1.5 years later, I got a new job, and it was exactly what I wanted and needed.
Love that.
Deb, my beautiful friend, Deb Morse, who was my very first guest on the original podcast that I did like many, many, many moons ago.
Oh, that's awesome.
She is in California. She's fabulous. She is an author, a former nurse, a lawyer, a psychic medium as well too, and has had quite the
Wow.
journey. So she is showing the more pure and open the intention, the better result. Lower impulse intention setting can result in messy results.
Very true.
Heidi is sharing the ego is such a mind game player. Just got to learn how to play the game. Dig deeper, learn from the lessons. Jeff is sharing the ego comes from the left hemisphere. Cast the net to the right.
Yes. And that's part of that intuition. And you can actually talk to yourself, and I do that. I'll ask the left side of my brain to be dormant and activate the right side. And there's some breathing exercises you can learn to do as well to activate the right brain.
Oh, Richie is in the house. Hello, Richie. Hi. So my friend Richie, so Stephen was also here earlier and I didn't do the shout out. So Wojo, I apologize. Richie and Wojo have Bigfoot Banter with Richie B podcast. So they're on Saturday nights. They've got lots of fun things happening. So please head over, help them get to those 1,000 subscribers, please. Hit that button. Richie is sharing ego can be used for so many positive things and intent. Negative is ego is voiced if unsaid. Can it be harmful or helpful? I think if you are aware of your ego and if it's kept inward, it can be good.
As long as it's not repressed, because sometimes when we repress aspects of the ego, it gets trapped in the subconscious mind, and that's where triggers can come out.
And Heidi is helping Richie and Wojo out with some of their social media aspects of the podcast. And we had Sam from Sam's Pretty Normal on a few weeks ago, and she's helping produce. So if you want to tap into those archive shows with Richie and Wojo and Sam, please head to the YouTube page and you can see them all there. Jeff Kirby was saying 369. I just lost it. 369. Where did it go? 369 keys to the universe.
Yes, and that's part of sacred geometry as well.
How does that work? I was born at 3:33, like 3:33 a.m.
You were? Oh, that's amazing. Of course you were. That makes sense.
I think pretty much everything, even the challenging part, like depression, like that aspect of that for me, I can hit every once in a while if I'm not careful. Sandra is sharing, I was told I had to move out of a house I was renting. I put it out to the universe to help me find the right one. I looked at many houses. The one I bought, when I walked in the door, I just knew. Powerful manifestor, you. Hello, James. Yeah. Do you know what, James? You will be very proud of me. I remembered to do the station ID without prompt from you, but I'm glad that you're here and you're still needed. So don't make sure that you still come back next week too, please. Richie is saying, thanks for the shout out and the answer. Yes, Heidi is amazing. You have an all-star squad happening over there. Richie, I hope for all good things for you and the podcast that you've got going on. Jeff is sharing we need to eliminate the 3 and 6, left with 9. 9 is most high. Can you explain what that is? Contessa was asking if it was something to do with Tesla.
Are you asking me, Carrie Lynn?
Yeah, I don't. Sorry.
Yeah. I believe it is connected to the same information that Tesla was getting. Yes, and it's part of what's kind of known as the secrets of the universe. So numbers have a vibrational frequency as well. I'm definitely not an expert in that area, but from what I understand, it's part of the.
We will get Sue Nato back on. She was on last week. She's a numerologist, and we will ask her these questions. So Jeff Kirby, keep watch, and we'll have Sue Nato on because she was talking last week about life path numbers, and that's something that you resonate with as well too, correct?
Yes, and I've written in my book on teaching people how to find their life path number, and because that's part of kind of peeling that onion layer back too. We've got the astrology and the numerology, the life path number, the soul path number, that all gives us aspects to who we are, in our soul's blueprint.
Yeah, so that's where my challenge is, because I'm a number 2, that depression.
Okay.
That show up.
I'm a 3.
Yes, when we manifest things, manifest that you already have it, and because it's already there, it's already there. Do you feel if people could shift into understanding that in every moment they're in constant co-creation, that would?
Yes, absolutely. And again, when we can bring our awareness to the 5th dimension or the quantum, then where the ego doesn't come in, everything flows much easier. And that's when we can have a conversation with our spirit guides as well, who have our blueprint right there, and they can help us. And I teach my clients and students, the body will tell us. So when you're in a higher state, in frequency, music is another beautiful way to get there, and mindfulness. Whenever you're there, talk to your guide and imagine that you're already moving. Let's say you're trying to decide if you want to move between choice A and choice B. When you're in that higher state, picture yourself there. Feel how you feel. Walk the streets. You're there. It's happening. Who are the people you're going to meet? And see how your body feels. If you feel tense and anxious, that's a no. If you feel so excited, like put me on the next plane, I'm ready to be there, that's a yes, or either to continue exploring that further.
Yeah. And check the 3rd path, because you might feel even better than that 2nd one.
Yes, absolutely. So, and pay attention to the synchronicities of the universe, because when we can stay in that high vibrational state, we have these magical moments of the synchronicities. And, so many people will say, oh, it's happening more and more, where I'm noticing the signs and the synchronicities. And it's like, my dear, they were there all along. We were just vibrating in a place that we were not able to see and witness them.
Yeah. And it's beautiful. When you start paying attention to those synchronicities, it's just, life is magical.
Yes.
It becomes magical with that. And how did I want to be careful how I phrase this. I have observed clients and a family member like recognize maybe who their partner is needing to be. So they think that they have a type, but really their soul or their spirit is recognizing where they're needing to go. So they see that one aspect and ignore all the red flags. And they're like, but I felt pulled, and they repeatedly until they get to that one. So they may have, if my sister's listening, you know that I love you. But she was like, I don't know, all these, Mike's dark hair, millwrights. And now she's with the one, but there was like a number beforehand. And it was like, your spirit can recognize some of it. And that's where you sit in and lean in. If there's red flags, let them see the bottom of your feet while you're running away.
Exactly. And I wrote about that with Mandy and the fictional character, because, there were red flags after red flags, and our ego tends to allow us to make excuses, right? When we're not wanting to recognize that it is a red flag. So that's part of being back in that alignment and being authentic with ourselves and being honest, because we're shown.
Mm-hmm. And honoring, I think I'm so glad that you're writing the book about Children of the New Earth, because I feel those discussions about manifesting, understanding what your intuitive voice sounds like and feels like in your body needs to start when they're younger, because they'll say, are you okay, Mom? And if you say, yes, I'm fine, their intuition knows that you're lying because they have felt that vibe. So, I mean, you can still meet them where they're at without giving them all the details as to why. Like, good for you for picking up that Mom wasn't feeling good. And these are adult things that I'll get. But when you dismiss it so often, they don't trust their intuition and become adults that have to peel back freaking onion layers.
Oh, I love that. And I love that the way that you parented and are still parenting your children, Carrie Lynn. That's just so amazing. Imagine, I imagine that in the new earth, that is what conscious parenting is. And I'm not talking about it in the future, since we're creating that. And, but I started channeling the children, the Golden Ray children that's the ones I started channeling about. They started incarnating in 2014.
Wow.
And they're very, very different than the rainbow and the crystal children, and even the blue ray and the diamond ray.
Heidi, that's really funny. I've made so many red scarves out of those red flags.
At least you put them to good use, Heidi.
That's so funny. So Heidi's saying thank you for your words. I agree and think it's so important. Jeff is sharing we are the creators. We observe certain experiences to hold space and to learn from as well too. Like, we're observing other people what they're manifesting, and it's not meant for comparison.
Right. And one of the spiritual laws that I wrote about in my book is the spiritual law of relativity, because everything's relative, right? And part of the opportunity there is not to compare ourselves to others, because you'll always find somebody that's richer or thinner, or on and on and on. It's not about that. It's about going within and evolving ourselves and expanding ourselves.
Where is it? Through Inner Traditions? Was it published through Inner Traditions?
You must be psychic. They're looking at another. Not that one. No, not that one.
Okay,
that's funny.
Sorry.
No, it's all good. Are you published with them? Are you?
Nope. I have not published anything. People have asked me when I'm going to, and I just haven't sat down to start.
So you picked up psychically?
Yeah. Sorry.
No, you're very psychic and very good.
We'll just redirect.
Yes. But way to manifest, Carrie Lynn. Way to manifest. So, one other spiritual law that I don't want to forget to talk about is that this was one that was a little more challenging for me, is the spiritual law of trust and surrender. Because, so many of us want to manifest something, and then we claw and scratch at it, or we obsess over it. Like people that have done a vision board and they leave it out, and every single day they look and look and look and talk about it. And it's like, that's not having trust and flow in the universe. And so the other guest earlier who talked about writing out the manifestation about a new job and then just put it away and hid it away, that is beautiful, because that meant that she had full trust and surrender in the universe to deliver that in the divine timing that was for her highest and best good.
Yeah. The most benevolent outcome.
Yes. Absolutely.
And it's surrender is very hard. Surrender, and letting go. And I feel it's hard for many people to do that, because we can do a quick Google search and have an answer to something within seconds. And
Yes,
it doesn't work that way when we are manifesting.
exactly.
Like,
Exactly. And sometimes it's not divine timing for us to kind of even know the answer. Have you ever kind of looked into something for yourself and it's like maybe or there's not a clear answer? And sometimes, especially for me as a psychic, that can be the most frustrating part, because I can tune in for anybody else, and then for myself, when it's not time to just let that go and trust and surrender. But it's more of a growth opportunity
yeah.
as well.
Accountability buddies.
Yes. I teach my students, find yourself. I call them spiritual buddies. Same thing.
Yeah.
Yes.
Could you explain why you feel that's important?
It's important because, well, many different reasons, but when we're on this journey, we can, I teach my students, we can either have ego or lack of confidence. And so a spiritual buddy can kind of be there for us and, see if we start going into a lack of confidence, or we start doubting ourselves, and our spiritual buddy can be our cheerleader and pick us back up and remind us, to trust. And then also too, I've had students that, after their first reading, decided they were the next Nostradamus and had gone into a little bit of ego. And so spiritual buddies can bring that accountability. Hi, remember what we learned about being humble and filled with humility? Maybe we can remind ourselves of that.
Or you get a beautiful, like, little Virgo child that I have, and she's like, that's not very spiritual, psychic medium Carrie Lynn Schulhorn. You need to rethink that, maybe. I remember, because she's 28 now, so even like 20 years ago, she would say, your energy is really kind of heavy. You should probably leave the room till you feel better.
Oh, I love her. Oh my gosh.
I do too. She's brilliant.
Oh my gosh.
Is brilliant in every way.
That is awesome. Awesome.
She's so it'll be interesting. It shifts though. Like when you start raising your frequency and vibration, that like attracts like. You do shift away, and you have very little patience to be in energetic space that is lower.
Yes. And I tell my students and my clients, it's not about judgment. It's about discernment.
Yeah.
It's, and that is key as well, is finding our discernment in our spiritual awakening. Because if we, so many of us are givers, like you said, you're a recovering people pleaser, same, like healers and psychics, we want to just give and give and give and give. And sometimes that's at our own detriment if someone is vibrating at a lower frequency. And it's draining our energy that doesn't serve anyone.
It's a big part is learning how to communicate differently too, right? It's taken a very long time for me to not respond quickly when people ask me a question. I've learned that it's okay for me to say, I just need to sit with that and I'll get back to you about it tomorrow. Like I need to be able to sit with it so I can feel it first before I can respond, and honoring that part of me.
Absolutely. And I love to say, let me meditate on that. It's the same thing. Sit with it, meditate on it, and I'll get back with you. Because, we, for years, I would just automatically, yes, no matter what. And then afterwards, why did I agree to that? I don't have time right now. So saying, let me meditate on that, or let me sit with that, is a beautiful boundary. I teach my students that our auric field, is sacred real estate. This 2 to 3 feet around us is truly sacred real estate.
And I feel a big part with manifesting is if you have been so scattered and in trauma or survival mode, it's really hard to know what your spirit needs to feel rejuvenated and sparked. And it really is a journey of getting to know yourself again.
Absolutely.
What sparks and fuels your spirit.
Yes, and what brings us joy. Because when we're feeling discombobulated, that's a lower vibrational energy. When we're feeling chaotic and unsure, that is not an energy that we're wanting to manifest in. And, another thing I point out is I know for myself, when I think back 5, 10, 15, 20 years, is what I would want to manifest then very different than what I want to manifest now? And the answer is yes. Yes.
Contessa's sharing, I love that sacred real estate. Me too. It's a beautiful way to phrase that.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, and being okay with not wanting to manifest the same because we're different people. And we were manifesting with the tools and the knowledge that we had at that time.
Right. Absolutely. Yes. And, our human experience is all about evolving and growing and learning and expanding.
And it gets less uncomfortable. Like evaluating, you have that uncomfortable moment. And 3 years ago, you may have sat in it for 2 months and stewed, but now you only sit in it for maybe a day or 2 hours or 2 minutes. Like seeing and honoring and recognizing your growth is important to keep moving forward.
I love that. Absolutely, Carrie Lynn. When I feel, I'll even say I'm having, I call my ego self human Jill. I'm having a human moment here, and I'm going to process, and I'm going to allow myself to sit in this, crap energy for, but like you said, before it would have been months, and now it might be an hour or two, and I'm able to shift out of it.
Yeah. I call them bad brain days.
I like that.
Or a bad brain moment.
Yes. Bad brain.
Yeah. The Chihuahua is loud. Heidi is sharing we grow, have experienced lessons and blessings. Mm-hmm.
Yes.
I like how you phrase that though. Could you share it again? Opportunity.
Soul growth opportunities.
Soul growth opportunity. Because that feels, even certain words, right? Like,
yes,
can be harmful or hurtful depending on our intentions as well too. But the words that we choose, when I hear lessons, I immediately go, oh, I messed up again.
Exactly. You think of that teacher that you didn't like with the ruler, like, oh, this is going to be a bad lesson that we have. And the energy of soul growth opportunities. And, my guides gave me that because for years I called it lessons too. And they said, well, let's shift that. It's kind of like my Reiki master teacher. I will never forget. When I was first, I was a psychic first professionally, and then I started opening up with the mediumship. And I remember I was sitting with her one day and I said, this is such a huge responsibility that I have on my shoulders. And she sat with it a minute and she said, is there another way that we could rephrase that? Because she said, I understand what you're saying, that you have a lot of honor and ethics and integrity in the work that you're bringing and serving of spirit, but is there a way we can shift that? And I thought about it a minute, and she said, how about this? I love the sacred opportunity I have in service to spirit. And I started shifting my words, because sometimes we don't even think about what the words mean when we say them.
Exactly. I do that with the heavier stuff too. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to practice healthy boundaries. Thank you for
Yeah.
giving me the opportunity for practice saying no.
Yes.
And
Yes.
reminding, because it keeps you up here and not in that low space, right?
Absolutely.
Heidi, love that. Yes, put a twist on intentions. And Heidi is sharing she'll use that going forward. I'm using that from now on. Soul growth and opportunities.
Awesome. Awesome.
Needing new words. Okay. I've been thinking about these same thoughts while cleansing my home. I need new words.
Beautiful.
Oh, Deborah Hackett Jones. You're one of my favorite people, Deb. So, Deb, I had these clients, and when I'm in sessions with people, I know that either they are or they're with somebody who does energetic healing, because my hands get really hot. Woo, someone's doing something, you know? And
Yeah.
I would go, who is Reiki Deb? And Reiki Deb is Deborah Hackett Jones, who is a medical intuitive and all around bright light. She has been on the show a couple of times. And we're so blessed that you're in the chat and hanging out with us, Deb.
That's awesome.
Yeah, Deb is definitely, she has a bright light, and she goes into space and she's like, we're gonna shift the energy and raise it up in here a wee bit. she's brilliant. And more and more of us are getting to that place, right? Like, and if you take ownership, because I used to be one of those people that would avoid, I still kind of do sometimes, but avoiding certain places because the energy would be low, but then you're limiting your life experience by not understanding how to maneuver through that.
Yes, that's true, because every place does give us that opportunity to grow, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a reminder to put on our spiritual armor too.
Yeah. Thanks for being here, Richie. Have a good night. I love you too, Deb. What do you have coming up, and where can people find information about that?
I'm going to be teaching again at Lilydale, and that's in New York. For anybody that hasn't been to Lilydale before, it's an amazing community of mediums, and I'm going to be there in July teaching 3 different days. And on my website, jillimjackson.com, you just go to the upcoming events tab, and that is the information there. And we also have a High Vibe Tribe community, and that's on the website. And we're looking at different spiritual retreats. Machu Picchu and Lake Titicaca will be in 2026, and we're looking at other ones as well.
Brilliant. Thank you so much for being here. Joanne is just sharing what an informative and uplifting discussion tonight. Thank you both so much. And Contessa is ordering your book right now. Thank you, Contessa.
Awesome. And don't forget the workbook too.
Yeah, the workbook journal to go along with it. Hi, Kaysen. It's nice to see you. It's been a while since we've seen you, and I'm glad that you're here tonight. Thank you. This has been a pleasure. So when Children of the New Earth is published, I can't wait. I hope that you agree to come back on and we can share and chat about that. Thank you, Sherry Stubbs, Jackie White. Thank you so much for being here. So thank you, everybody in the chat who commented and asked questions. You guys help make the show what it is. Next week, my guest is Kat Ward from the Paranormal Heart podcast. She is part of the UPRN family here. The Paranormal Voice. Please like and follow their podcast as well, too. Thank you so much for being here. Richard Hathaway, Denise Mitz, Michelle Plummer, thank you so much, everybody. And a big shout out to the United Public Radio Network and the UFO Paranormal Radio Network, 105.3 in the Gulf Coast and 107.7 FM out of beautiful New Orleans. Thank you so much, everybody. Have a good night.